as, you know, this is your first major TV role. So how does it feel to, you know, be introduced to the world and on at a speed like this, and the role is the Magic Johnson? Like that's what a way to be introduced to the world.
Yeah. Well, first, yeah, thank you. I think because of the pandemic, I was able to like really live with the role, and so it's not as fast of an introduction as like y'all probably feel like it is, because I booked this role back in May of 2019.
Yeah.
So it's been 3 years since I've like first knew I was getting this role. But just to be able to play Magic, it's just been a dream come true, man. Like I wanted to be a basketball player for as long as I can remember. And I remember not being able to. My mom told me like, "Nah, that's not what you're gonna do. You're gonna go to school. You know, you're gonna pick some, a little more realistic."
Mhm.
And I went through school, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be an actor then." So we see where that ended up. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it was good. It. I can I just really appreciate being able to play an icon, and not only on the floor but in the business realm, and in HIV activism, and just uh, um, a cultural person uh, influence, So yeah.
And John, for you, probably, you know, if you were to look up, if there was a picture beside the definition of multifaceted in the dictionary, it would probably be Jerry Buss, because he's such a, you know, there's so many aspects to him. He's, you know, complicated in his own sense too. What's something that you were most interested to learn about him when you were preparing for this series and to step into this role?
Well, it's funny because I still can't quite wrap my mind around it. The fact that this guy had a doctorate of physical chemistry. I mean, I lasted about 2 months in my chemistry class in high school and begged to get out of it. In fact, it was the first time I ever admitted to someone that I wanted to be an actor for the rest of my life. I was just trying to get out of that class. Like, look, Mr. Hackett, I'm not going to be a chemist. I don't want to tell you I'm going to be an actor. Like, I was just pleased. So he put me in business law instead, which served me much better than chemistry ever would have. But yeah, just the idea that Jerry was this scientist, he that he was this very well educated, genius at math and all this stuff. All the rest of it, I can kind of expect, comes from humble beginnings, has a lot to prove, makes a lot of money in the real estate world. But the part of it that was really fascinating is like, he was a doctor of chemistry. Like, what other playboy of the 1970s was a doctor of chemistry that actually taught chemistry at USC? I mean, or who worked for the aerospace industry and the government, figuring out missile trajectories between Russia and America. Like, that's just not in the profile of most NBA owners. So I found that really fascinating about him, and it was always something that whenever I felt myself getting a little bit too that party boy kind of attitude with the open shirts or whatever, I would always remind myself, remember, he has a doctorate in chemistry. So he has this very analytical mind, and a very impressive intellect, So I think a lot of what he was doing was like the reason he was so good at poker and so good at reading people in situations that were high stakes was because he was very intelligent and he could read people.
Yeah, yeah. And Quincy, for you, how would you describe, I guess, Magic's mindset? You know, we see him when he first gets out to LA, and he's kind of like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to take everything on. And then it's kind of like this culture clash moment between where he's from and LA. And there were so many references to Magic being country by coming from Lansing, Michigan. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, well, I'm from North Carolina, so if that's considered to be like some sort of country, then I'm like way on the country spectrum then. But anyway, how can you speak to kind of his mindset in those first few episodes when he first gets in LA and kind of, you know, butts heads with people, kind of questions if this is what he even wants to do?
Yeah, it's tough coming from a place where you're known as, you know, the big fish in the small pond, and then now you turn around and you being thrust into this place with big fish, but even bigger fish in this really big pond. And now I got to figure out how I need to move. And do I want to be a bigger fish? Like, do I want to stay the same size, or do I want to be the big fish in the small pond again? You know? And I think for Magic, for my character, it was just about like really seeing and feeling it out, and allowing that timidness to come through a little bit, and also but also putting on a good face and making sure that people didn't see me waver in my confidence. But also getting beat down by Norm will do that, will destroy your confidence a little bit. And it's just about, but it's about finding yourself. And he's a kid, you know, he's 20 years old at this point. So it's about growing up and like just understanding that you don't have all the answers, and that you're going to make mistakes, and being a human, and that's okay. And it's encouraged actually, like in real life, you know. But and then flip to episode 2, and you didn't see him get a little bit more of that confidence going. And now, you know, he's going to inflict some of that, you know, like where he is that big fish, he's going to show that he's a big fish. And like, no, I'm a big fish in this little pond, but I'm about to go be a big fish in a big pond too. So it's about, I would say, just finding that confidence, especially as like, again, like I said, a 20-year-old, you know, a 19, 20-year-old trying to figure out if this lane is for me. And first, whether you believe or you can't, you're right. So it's about figuring that out.
Well, thank you both so much for your time, and I can't wait for everyone to see this series, and congrats in advance on the premiere. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you, man.